Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Prostar's channel. We're sitting here once again with Paige, who on the last video, we got to know a lot about himself and his previous experience, but today we want to dive deeper into Prostar itself. So, Paige, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Appreciate you asking.
Of course, of course. I'm glad to see you doing well. So kind of kicking off here, let's say we're in an elevator. We got 50 floors to go, and I'm asking you, Paige, what does your company do? Give us the 411 here.
The old elevator pitch, huh?
Yeah.
So Prostar, we're a world leader in the development of precision mapping solutions. And what I mean by precision is most maps that you might be familiar with, say, for example, Google Maps, which is probably the most popular, is accurate to about 1 to 3 centimeters, which works because you have what's called line of sight. So, if you're trying to get from destination point A to point B, you recognize maybe the restaurant or the hotel you're looking for. It's done its job. You're happy with the app. We're in the critical infrastructure industry. So the clients that we work with are large construction companies, government agencies, survey and engineering companies, and even the manufacturers of GPS and survey equipment. And in their world, everything is survey grade, which means down to the centimeter. So we've designed the world's most precise mapping solution. It's cloud and mobile, and it gets you down to the centimeter, which is somewhat unprecedented. And not only can we map surface infrastructure to the centimeter, we can also map subsurface infrastructure to the centimeter, which includes, for example, utilities and pipelines.
All right. You had talked before about how before this was implemented, people would lay pipe and then they'd run into another pipe and stuff. And it seemed like that was a real issue that you think would have been resolved a long time ago. So tell me how you went about actually achieving this.
Well, number one, as you mentioned, it is a big problem, and the problem continues today because there's so much more demand because of population growth
Mhm.
for utilities and for pipelines. So the problem is only getting worse with each passing year. So
Mm.
my background was in the oil and gas industry. I would often work out in the oil fields in high school during my summers off, and also during vacation time when I was going to college. And it happened quite frequently. We'd be out in the middle of a remote area. There wasn't supposed to be anything out there, and we'd hit another pipeline. And the question would become, how come we don't have this information of where this pipeline was so that we could avoid it? It's one of the reasons we're called Prostar.
Mhm.
We took the name after OnStar, which of course is the navigation system owned by General Motors. The reason we called it Prostar is that, as opposed to be used for public use, ours was for commercial
Makes
use,
sense. Yeah.
more professional. Mhm.
Makes sense. So from there, so you've got this amazing product. Tell me how it gets implemented by these businesses that you give it to. I look here and I see the PointMan. Tell me how that is used in this process.
Yeah, so PointMan is the name of our flagship solution. And it comes in a couple different versions, but it's real simple. Basically, you just download it and you're up and running. It's that simple. When you
Mhm.
download it, it spins off a version in the cloud. We run on AWS, and then you also have access to it from any standard mobile device, be it a smartphone or a tablet. And it literally seamlessly integrates the field operations with the field operations so that they have complete transparency in real time of what's taking place out in the field, and they can transfer information back and forth from the office to the field, which historically that could take a couple days, if not a couple weeks, which would
Yeah.
obviously hold up, many decisions, critical decisions that needed to be made.
Okay. Yeah. So you've solved an information bottleneck to some degree. Tell me how you go about getting these clients, and then from there, how you go about getting payment for this. Is this like a monthly thing that they sign up for, yearly contracts, etc.?
Yeah, it's a good question. So number one, how do we get the clients? Basically, what we're doing is we're disrupting the industry. This industry, the construction industry, has been operating under the same business practices and workflow processes for several decades. So it's ripe for disruption. So the fact that we've brought out a solution, which is basically just utilizing modern technology that can significantly enhance current workflow processes and business practices, and also make the job site a lot safer, we're starting to get adoption in the market. And we started with some of the largest companies and government agencies in the United States, which we call influencers. So once they start to adopt it and use it, then it's a lot easier to realize adoption from all the other companies involved in the same industry. And then we're based on what's called a SaaS model, software as a service. It's an annual fee that you pay us.
Mhm.
So as a result, once we sign up, we recognize what's called annual reoccurring revenue from the client. And as long as our solution is working and providing return on investment, then they pay us every year to utilize our solution.
Yeah, it's really interesting if you think about it, because you mentioned it. This kind of stuff is becoming more needed all the time. It makes sense that people would stick with your product practically indefinitely, right?
Well, that's kind of
That's
what's happening. Once they sign up and they start to realize the value, not only do they start to spread it out throughout all their operations within the organization, so that you have a lot more of your employees that start to use it, they start to become accustomed to it, and in many ways they become dependent on it. But a lot of these companies also work with other companies. Maybe it's a contract company that provides services. So it also opens up a great distribution channel because then they get exposed to it, and then they're like, hey, maybe we need this for our own company and our own internal operations. And we're starting to see that now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody who's doing any sort of digging should have some good information of what's under the ground before they start going in there, especially when it comes
Absolutely.
to any larger scale project whatsoever. So it makes sense you could see this infiltrating into smaller companies and markets over time as well. And from there, I want to know, do you guys have any real competitors in the space? Is there anybody else doing anything similar?
Well, I think there's lots of companies out there that provided information as best they could on where infrastructure was located, and especially, buried utilities, because as you mentioned, if you don't know where buried utilities and pipelines are during construction and you hit them, some bad things can happen. So
Yeah.
there's companies out there that provided, I think, various levels of what it is that we do, but I don't know of a single company that created, number one, a full comprehensive solution that provided everything that needed to be provided in order to identify where these utilities and pipelines are buried below the ground. But the other thing we did is we designed it to work on any standard mobile app. All the information is stored. We do all the post-processing up in the cloud, and everything is provided in real time. And then the fact that we can do it with centimeter accuracy, the answer to that question is no, I don't know anyone else that can do it. And then, of course, we just completely redeveloped our platform. We rewrote every single piece of code on the mobile app and in the cloud. And now we're able to provide it at a price point that I haven't seen anybody else even come close
Oh,
to the price point that we have. And again, I don't think that anyone else out there is actually providing what it is that we do provide.
wow.
And by the way, the clients that we're starting to acquire, which are some of the largest companies in the world. We're partnered with like the largest technology companies in the world. If in fact there was another solution out there that could provide what we do, they would either be partnered with them or they would have developed it themselves because they certainly have the resources to do it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I really feel like the fact that you made it work across even mobile devices was a really smart move. Makes it really easy for them, right? Makes it easy for them to onboard your guys' software and your service really quickly. And so kind of from there, how have things been going so far? You've mentioned a lot of these big names, and well, you haven't mentioned the names. We'll keep those out of it, but you've mentioned that you got a lot of really large clients. And from there, what comes next? Is there going to be changes to this over time, or what's the plan?
Well, number one, I don't mind mentioning the clients. So I'm a somewhat reserved. I don't like to just run around and name the clients that we have, but I'll give you an example. Kiewit
Mhm.
is our client. And it literally took us a couple of years to really establish that relationship and credibility. Because to be honest with you, no one believed that what we're doing could actually be done.
Hmm.
They call it the Holy Grail.
Wow.
And the fact that we've, number one, developed it and delivered it, and now we have the clients that are giving us that credibility. For example, Kiewit's one of our clients. They're the largest infrastructure construction company in North America. Fortune 500. A lot of their jobs are multi-billion-dollar jobs. They primarily are focused on infrastructure, so they're basically the big highways, a lot of your interstates, roads, bridges, dams. those are built by Kiewit. We have, say, for example, KCI, which is one of the largest subsurface utility engineering firms in the United States with operations throughout the US, is one of our clients. Colorado Department of Transportation actually
Hmm.
just mandated our software in the state of Colorado. So if you're a utility company, a pipeline company, a construction company, engineering, surveying firm, even a municipality, anyone that has utilities or pipelines on a state right of way is now required by law to use our software. And of course, that has given us unprecedented exposure. Companies are
Sure.
starting to
Yeah.
use it because they have to. And then
Yeah.
once they use it, they realize, wow, this provides tremendous value. We should adopt this for our own internal operations. And I could list several more, but yeah, we're starting to get adoption from these marquee clients.
Mhm.
And once you start to get adoption from the marquee clients, then it starts to work its way throughout the market just because of the visibility and the credibility. So what's happened just over the last 60 days is we're really starting to see a ramp up, and we're starting to sign, well, a lot more clients just in the last, say, 30 days than, for example, than I did last year.
Yeah, when it kind of gets down to the brass tacks of it, if someone didn't have this software and then they did cause an accident, the amount of monetary damages could be huge. So it makes sense almost as like an insurance policy, right? To actually have that information. The information is incredibly valuable because of that.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, the better the information, the better the business decision.
Mhm.
And yes, if you don't know where utilities and pipelines are on a large construction job, then the risk and liability of not knowing where they are and as a result hitting them, yeah, the cost can be in the tens of millions of dollars.
Yep. All right, Paige. Well, thank you. I feel like you've given everybody a really good look at the business here. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
No, that's great. I'm just excited about where we are. And I think that we are actually poised, if you will, to be successful based on the fact that we've also got this big infrastructure bill coming our way. And I think, maybe over the next year, next couple of years, we're going to see a ramp up in
Mhm.
the construction of infrastructure. And I always tell everybody, you got to be careful because the surface infrastructure is connected to that subsurface infrastructure, and you can't work on one or the other without impacting each other. And within that infrastructure bill, and what I'm excited about, they're not only talking about roads, bridges, and railway systems, they're also talking about that we need to certainly bring our subsurface infrastructure, which includes our water systems, as well as broadband and sewage systems. We have to focus on that as well. So I think we're poised to take advantage of the infrastructure bill that's coming our way as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That infrastructure bill should hopefully modernize a lot of our very aged pipes and everything that is going on underground. But all right, Paige, thank you so much for coming on. If there's any questions for Paige or anybody else on the team, let us know. We'll be happy to get an answer for you. And stay tuned for more updates coming soon. Paige, have a
Great.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.